informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. My name is Ivan Khanna. This is my co-host Gleniva Haj, and we are back for part 2 with Dr. Olufemike Banks Devonish, talking about mental health. When we left off, we touched on something that's rather interesting. I don't think much people know that it exists. So there is a hotline called SAFE.
Yes.
7233.
Yes.
No 497, no 582, no 729, no 235, no 476, no 581, no 583. It is 7233. Nothing else you dial before it. That provides support.
It does.
What kind of support?
So SAFE was actually an initiative between the ministry and the Hats and Heels committee. It was in the works for
a few
years. And it was started to be a domestic violence hotline.
Okay.
So SAFE stands for Stop Abuse for Everyone.
Stop abuse for everyone. That's good to know. Because men are abused as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Men, children.
And yes, so, and I don't mean to cut you off, and that is why it was so important that we said everyone.
Okay.
I know persons, and we're sitting here and we all play different roles, and I'm happy that Dr. Banks Devonish is here and we can speak about SAFE from the psychosocial aspect and the DV aspect, because I have been involved with SAFE.
DV is domestic
violence. Sorry, yes. It I've been involved with SAFE from its inception. I know the struggles that those lovely ladies from Hats and Heels that we went through in terms of funding and training and the revelation of all it would take to get a hotline up and running, and the behind the scenes walk of what that looked like. And just to provide just a little bit of historical background on that. The DV hotline was just at the point of being ready to be launched when COVID hit. And the ministry, because we work so closely with the Ministry of Social Development, the ministry recognized the need for a hotline to deal with the psychosocial aspect of what was happening with COVID.
Yes.
And so the two were merged, and we now have our first domestic violence / psychosocial hotline, which I'll now turn over to Dr. Banks and I'll speak to how exactly that works. We know that there's no number before it. It is absolutely free.
Yes. There's
no charge. It works like a 911 call. You can have $0, 0 cents on your phone, and you can still make this call.
Wow.
I like to, whenever I speak about it, I like to publicly thank Flo and Digicel, both communication networks, for agreeing to this and coming on board, because I know the work that went into being able. They said, sure, let's go. So tell us a little bit about the behind the scenes. It's manned 24/7.
Yes. It is man and woman 24/7. It's personed 24/7 by a team of individuals trained in mental health and psychosocial support, trained in psychological first aid. So these would be people who are able to offer basic counseling, people who are able to offer support, people who are able to liaise with other necessary agents. Example, for domestic violence, we would liaise with SIU if needed. That's the department within the Royal Anguilla Police Force that deals with domestic violence and abuse.
needed and wanted, because I think it's important that we let persons know that you don't, persons who I'm going to use the word person who respond, our first responders, and that's what we refer to them as, they'll never make that call without your consent.
Yes.
Without your permission. And I think it's important because sometimes persons just need a space where they can talk.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so let me break it down a little bit. There are persons that pick up the phone when you call for help. 7233.
Correct.
And unless, if the situation is dire and you need police intervention, they don't just call. They wait for you to request that, is what you just said?
So it always depends on the situation. I will
Okay.
put that as a disclaimer because as a psychologist, I have a professional obligation. If someone is in acute danger, to do my best to protect them or to report that. The thing with abuse is, and you would know this just through hearing about court cases, the survivor always has the option of dropping a case, right? And that's because as a consenting adult, it's your choice what you want to do with that information. So if someone's life is at risk, that is not a question that we will ask.
Right.
But if it's a situation that someone is in and they are struggling with, do I want to get out of this? How do I cope with this? That is a decision that that individual gets to make themselves. Do I want this information to be shared? Do I want this person that I'm speaking to on the phone to speak to anybody else? Or do I just need a space?
Okay.
So if it's a life-threatening situation, yes, we have an obligation to report. But if it's a situation, and when I say life-threatening, I mean acutely life-threatening, as in imminent danger. That is when we have an obligation to to report. But in situations where someone is going through a difficult time, it could be a situation where they have been abused in the past, it could be a situation where they're currently abused. It's up to them if they want that information to be shared.
So again, there is support services that's confidential,
Yes.
that's free,
Yes.
that's something that we shouldn't be shying away from.
Yes.
7233.
Yes.
You're having a difficult time, you've been abused, you need an outlet you can pick up and somebody will answer.
Yeah, and I want to touch on the word confidential again because I feel like that is one of the main reasons that a lot of people shy away from accessing services. And as a professional coming back to Anguilla, in this society, I think one of my main objectives was to kind of try to change the narrative about people in the government or people in these services can't be confidential. I take that extremely seriously because I feel like people need that space and they need to feel comfortable enough to come to that space. There would have been unfortunate situations in the past, or there would have been some situations where confidentiality was broken wherever, and that kind of perpetuated that narrative that it doesn't exist, but it does, and it's something that I, as a professional, and the team at SAFE take very seriously. I can't emphasize it again. Extremely seriously.
I will tell you how safe is. I am sitting as the president of the board that, because again, SAFE originated as this DV hotline, and there was a board for Stop Abuse for Everyone, and I sit as the president of that, and I have no idea. I am not one of the first responders, so I don't know of any of the cases. I don't have that information. I don't have access to that information. There is no way for me, as someone sitting on the board, to have access to that information. And that just goes to speak to the level of professionalism and the processes and things that are put in place to ensure that confidentiality is not breached. And again, SAFE is not just for persons who are in DV situations. it sort of materialized and became something more. And if you can speak to what psychosocial support is and who can call safe and for what reason do you need to call safe?
If you need to talk. Psychosocial support is basically if anyone is experiencing any mood difficulties, if they're experiencing any emotional challenges that are affecting their functioning in whatever aspect, whether that's home, whether that's work, school. So basically it's a hotline for anybody that needs some kind of support with mental health or with emotions, with social issues that they're having.
Anxiety as well.
Anxiety, yes, definitely. Depression,
So if persons are considering self-harm,
definitely.
suicidal,
Children can jump on this line, adults, everybody.
Yes.
there
Once
is
you have access to a phone.
There is a special way that we deal with children, though, if I'm not mistaken, because again, children can't necessarily give the consent the way that adults do, and so it's dealt with a little bit differently, but they still have access
But
to it.
I'm asking this based on, again, we go back to the previous episodes with 1 in 5 children attempting thinking about suicide, so they can pick up the phone and call and speak to somebody.
They can. They can.
Yep.
So when I always have to look. I don't always have to. I tend to look at things. I gotta self-check myself. I tend to look at things through the marketing eye a lot. This number, why isn't this just blasted, pasted, and everywhere?
That big orange billboard and what's that, Wild Lake?
Yeah, and it has not come down.
It's still there.
How many people use the Wild Lake Road?
Everybody, because you have to pass it in order to get from the valley. And when we say Wild Lake, we're talking about that open but that open area across from the Wild Lake Hill. There's a big, safe
Can I make
billboard.
a suggestion?
Yes,
Yes.
sir, Master
To
Marketer.
all of you with your electronic billboards that are doing it for business, sponsor some time and put this out there. The children see it, the adults see it. If I don't see it there, I'm gonna call you and ask you personally about it. I think it should be random text blasts. People need that reminder. People need that reminder because you don't know in that moment. That text might come to their phone, and that's not something that we should stop. And I think that's something Digicel and Flow would jump on. I know they are great corporate citizens. We just need a bit more of that from other persons. Now that I know this, I can even use randomly to post on the stories for government and those type of things because this is amazing. I didn't know that this level of care and therapy existed. For free, I might add that, and confidentially, and that's important because we touched on it in the last episode. We often just need somebody to talk to,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that can be a start. Maybe, for all we know, that's probably one of the things that's kind of like jumpstarting this resurgence or this acceptance of what counseling can do for persons. So. Few parents, maybe you might want to try it out and give it a call because I know there's a lot of pressure. I remember during the pandemic, a lot of things are missed in the government press conferences, but because I'm there and I have to pay attention, I don't miss much. And I remember the minister, the Honorable Deanne Kentish Rogers, she got a bit passionate and almost teary when she spoke about the children and the rise in abuse cases with the children being home. We go back to the fact that schools are an escape for a lot of children. There was sexual abuse on the rise. There was domestic violence on the rise. And I remember her mentioning this now.
Yes.
Um,
domestic violence
domestic
rose
violence.
by 80-something%, I think.
Hold on, you can't do that kind of thing to me with figures. You know you don't respond well to that. The 1 in 5 I ain't get over yet. So you're trying to tell me that during the pandemic, with everything we got going on, we still can't.
And it's because, as you said, school is an outlet for children the same way that work is an outlet for adults.
Yeah.
So whereas you were only at home for certain hours in the night, now you're at home with your partner and your children for the whole day. And unless you have the tools for conflict resolution, could easily become a very difficult situation to exist in, and that's how it manifested.
It did. And I must say this. Our figures rose dramatically, and it was not exclusive to Anguilla. You know, when I speak to my regional counterparts, every single country, every single member country of CARIWA, which is the Caribbean Women's Association, every last one of them reported increases in their DV numbers. Internationally, we saw the same thing. So it's not exclusive to Anguilla, and I think that is why there was that particular push to get the hotline up and running during the COVID pandemic, because you know that this is what happens in emergency situations, in natural disasters, in these tense situations. We know that you see the emergence of abuse. The numbers of abuse tend to go up. So,
and we did a lot of work during the pandemic with various community members. So we did a lot of work with hospitality workers. We did work with teachers. We did work, and when I say we, I mean the psychosocial support team that was formed during COVID. And it was because we recognized that pandemic did a lot to people's mental health. It was loss of income. It was change in roles. It was domestic violence on the increase. It was fear of health issues and death. It was confusion as to what's the way forward. It was a lot for a lot of people, and
It still is a lot.
still. And I think I would be honest to say that now that the pandemic is reducing, my expectation was that the demand would also reduce, but I'm seeing actually the opposite.
Okay, can I put a pause here?
Yes, you may.
I'm going to say this again. Dr. Olufemike Banks Devonish is not going to openly ask, and she is, I'm not diminishing her role, but I'm saying again on this episode, if you missed the first one, that we need 12 people, 13 people, 15 or whichever people she wants to provide the support, because this is broad. If we go back to what you touched on, you provide, it's you alone in your department. And you provide support services or oversight on a number of different tiers and levels. And we see what's going on in society now. And now you're telling me that COVID multiplied that. And the residue of it is still there. And we don't know what monkeypox going to do. We don't know what Putin is going to do.
hard. It's not so hard, Ivan. I have not allowed you to introduce that topic into the show.
But the premier touches about a couple shows.
And I tried to shut it down.
I tried to shut it down, but it doesn't mean that it's not the reality. The reality is that we are not in isolation. Mm-hmm. We do not operate in a vacuum. The things that we thought was taboo as Anguillians are not knocking at our front door. They're in the living room sitting and waiting for us. That's the reality of it.
With a cup of tea.
With a cup of tea.
Bush tea.
Bush tea. They probably picked the bush themselves. So it's right there. It's home now. And we can't shy away from this. Mm-hmm. Because we're seeing it in our schools. We're seeing it in our marriages. We're seeing it in our churches. We're seeing it in the workplaces. Mm-hmm. We are seeing the degradation of society and the family unit in a lot of areas. But there's hope because there is programs.
National Parenting Program.
There's the National Parenting Program. There's SAFE 7233. There is Dr. Olufemike Banks Devonish. She can't provide service to everyone, but she's going to get the support. Another plug again. Mm-hmm. But we have somewhat of a pathway forward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So let's bring it back a little bit, if I may.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm guarding my words. I'm guarding my words a little bit.
I can see the struggle.
It's bad. It's really, really bad because I tend to just want to really get to the meat of the matter. Mm-hmm. But honestly, outside of SAFE, and it's probably a topic we don't want to touch on, but we have to touch it. Because the women tend to advocate for each other. But there's a lot of men going through abuse. It might not be physical, but the psychological abuse that men go through. You have men who struggle to be fathers. When I say fathers, I mean being present in the role because of situation. You have men who struggle with self-worth because they're ripped apart by the women in their lives. Some even started with their mothers because the relationship with their mothers and their fathers was so rough, and we don't want to touch on these things. But now we're seeing these things festering. What support is there for men? Can a man come and sit with you as a woman and get the support that he needs?
They can and they do.
They can and they do. So they're reaching out.
Yes.
That's good to know.
More
That's
so
extremely
than
good to know.
before.
Okay, so what's causing this revolution?
I honestly, my hypothesis, without any
that's a big
ground
word.
research,
Big word.
without any full.
I didn't hear that word since Mets.
This is why we know we have a doctor in the house.
My hypothesis is that a lot of men felt more comfortable opening the door when COVID happened because it was more of a financial kind of difficulty. You know, the role as the
Breadwinner.
the breadwinner, the provider, that is broken down. So the expectation is that you would be stressed. So once the expectation is, once that exists, and you have now the opportunity to speak about that, you can then speak about other things. So I think it's not that men don't want to talk, it's just how do we get them there.
You said something and you touched on it in the previous episode, and I'm sorry, Glennie, because I think I'm jumping ahead of you.
No, go right ahead.
You said the stress. And you said way back when, and possibly, it's a possibility as to why counseling is frowned upon, not seen by certain or poor parents and stuff, is because they considered everything to be stress when there were mental health issues. How much of what we still characterize as stress is actually deep-rooted mental health issues?
A lot. And it's sometimes hard to tease apart because stress and anxiety carry a lot of the same symptoms. You know, the heart palpitations, the difficulty sleeping, trouble relaxing, the eating, either not eating or the overeating, the avoidance of certain social situations. They carry a lot of the same symptoms. But I think because COVID-19 and Hurricane Irma before COVID-19,
Because we have just entered.
Yeah.
We have just entered
they were
hurricane
what we
season.
considered periods of chronic stress. So everybody has daily stress. We all have our daily stressors, but those are periods where we consider them to be chronic stress. So we don't see when it's going to end. It's affecting all aspects of life, kind of serious stress. And people were identifying that as stress. But it was long term. But it was because of something. So with stress, we can identify the issue. That's the difference between stress and anxiety. Anxiety, we could be sitting down here fine and you can just have a panic attack, or you can experience anxiety without any particular trigger. The difference between stress and anxiety, well, the two differences would be anxiety is more long term and it's not always related to a specific incident. The problem is, it was confused in the recent years because we had those chronic stress periods. So it was long term anyhow, and it was so many different things that you can't really say it was because of one thing. So we characterize a lot of anxiety as stress, but I can understand why it was hard to tease apart, especially recently.
Go ahead.
Actually, you know, we've gone there. So while we've already gone there, let's stay here for a little bit. We know that we're now entering into hurricane season. It has started.
It started.
The long-term effects of Hurricane Irma for a lot of persons still exist.
So much PTSD.
And that is where I wanted to go.
So
into what
much
PTSD.
post-traumatic stress disorder. So much PTSD exists in Anguilla, especially because of Hurricane Irma, and we don't really speak about it But it's easy for me as a professional to identify. And if you pay close enough attention, it will be easy for a lot of people to identify. If the wind blows too hard, somebody might say, well, what is outside, Oma? And we pass it off as a joke, but there are people that are afraid of thunder now. There are people that are afraid of high winds, afraid of rain. There are people that hear loud bangs and they automatically jump. There are people that have fears of being home alone. There are people who are dreading the fact that June 1st.
I was about to say, I think, I even in myself, I know, I feel when I tense when June 1st comes around and you don't let that out until November 30th. I remember last year in particular, I had persons say to me, oh, well, September is the height. So once this passed, and I go, no, I don't feel safe until December 1st hits. And then it's like, okay, now I can, collect. It feels like a collective sigh of relief when that time period has passed, because we make light of it and we knock on wood and we say never again. But there are persons that are out there going, hurricane season, and deadly afraid that it can happen again.
I'm going to say something, and I that PTSD from Hurricane Irma is real, it's legit. And it's not just adults, it's our children. Like, if there's going to be a hurricane, it's in my best interest to put my daughter on a plane and let her go someplace. My daughter, she practically had her fingers in her ears for the entire ordeal. And she struggled after for time. But she had a fear of thunder from before. So we literally had to change her school. She used to go to prophecy in the quarter. And she developed a fear of thunder. And when Anguilla picked up with his tourists and the jets would fly over, they used to call me to the school to pick her up. So that's how she ended up as Bethel. Contrary to what Oliver Richardson believed, that Bethel is just...
Oliver Richardson, strong beliefs.
Strong beliefs about Bethel. And my children look good in that blue and white. I sent my children to road school and they ended up to West End because I am a golden horse. Their mom is whatever the blue thing is, a blue ram. And we couldn't agree more than to have them both create a different identity because road school and valley school don't work. That's a cycle. So Anova, that's how she ended up at Bethel and in the blue. But that's still I used to literally, you gotta say to me, I'm not afraid of thunder, I'm not afraid of thunder. And I'm not no psychologist, but you have to walk through these things. I'm saying all of that to say, like you said, Geneva, some people right now are carrying those pressures because it's June 1st. Business owners don't start thinking. People subconsciously say, I got a lot of play with an island, or wonder if I should secure some just in case they're making their plans. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to be planning.
No.
But how much of that pressure should you be putting on yourself, doctor? At least at this stage when you haven't really sought any help for it. Because truth be told, we haven't sought any help for it. And then... Say that again?
The majority
of us haven't sought any help for it. What outlets can we use now that we're at the start of hurricane season to say, hey, let me start to do a little positive reinforcement for where these things are concerned? Any recommendations you can give there?
I would say identifying it is the first step, just to say this is something that I'm really experiencing. And cognitive behavioral therapy is something that we use a lot for fact checking. So cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, it's a form of psychotherapy where we challenge unhelpful thoughts, so we find evidence against the thoughts that we're thinking when they're irrational, especially.
And that's how you deal with anxiety.
Yes, that's one of the major therapies used for anxiety.
And I can speak about that because I used to have anxiety. The panic attacks. Legit. And that's, a lot of people don't know, that's one of the reasons I stopped drumming. I was a very good drummer. I was kind of talented. But literally, if I would sit down, it would start in church. I got up and walked off the drums in the middle of service one time. And tracing it back, I can see where it started. But cognitive behavioral therapy, so the fact checking.
Yes,
getting-
finding evidence against the irrational thoughts to kind of calm you down a little bit, help
And
you to
that's
understand
important.
what's going on.
The irrational thoughts, because a lot of time we don't see that you just start to race and you create these stories. So we're now in the midst of, let's say we're in the midst of COVID, not COVID, we're in the start of hurricane season, even COVID, and you're having these thoughts. Like, how do you start to address those irrational thoughts?
You find the evidence that you can against it. So you are saying that you are anxious about the hurricane, but what is the evidence that there is a hurricane coming now? And it's constant. It's not like I'll do this today at the beginning of hurricane season and then I'll be good for the rest of it. It's constant as you get these irrational thoughts to start thinking about it. So I'm not going to be prepared for the hurricane. If a hurricane comes, this is what's going to happen to me. What's the evidence against that? So I've bought my plywood. I have reinforced my shutters. I've done what I can to prepare. So the likelihood of is less than. So it's about just constantly reminding yourself about the fact that these thoughts aren't fact and working through that. It's easier done with a professional, but at a base level, that's what I would recommend as well. Also, to get to that point, sometimes if we're feeling really anxious, we really have to force our body to slow down. And as both of you therapy users would know, that breathing is our main technique for slowing down our thoughts, slowing down our body, because your body cannot be relaxed and anxious at the same time. When you focus and take the time to work on your breathing, focus on your deep breathing, you're kind of telling your body, slow down. It's hard to do when you're in
The moment.
but the more that you do it, the easier it becomes. And I encourage mindfulness techniques like just standing outside, looking at the clouds, taking in the scent of the air, looking at the movement of the trees in the wind. And for me, as an Anguillan, when I went to school and I heard about mindfulness, I was like, what in the hippie is this? Right?
Hold on, time out.
Honestly.
This is as good as my use of the word wonky.
She said, what in the hippie?
Yes, because they were telling me to, just exist in the here and now. And all I could think about was like a field of like
I just
hippie signs, right? And
I'm getting the visualization.
right? So it was like, just exist in the here and now. Don't be too judgmental on yourself. Understand that your mind is made for thinking. And so when you get these thoughts, just acknowledge them and then continue what you're doing. And for me, that was like, what?
But it works.
It wonders. I take 3-minute breathing spaces 3 times a day, every day, regardless of where I am and what I'm doing. And my 3-minute breathing space involves me finding a quiet space, or if I can't find a quiet space, I find somewhere where there's something visually appealing. I love the sky. The sky is it for me.
I was just going to say, I'll find a mirror.
I did say this is not a therapy session for Ivan.
If I can't, sometimes I'll just focus on the trees. The beach is amazing. I go to Backstreet a lot. But just for 3 minutes, I focus on what I can hear. I focus on the sights that I'm seeing, things that I wouldn't notice normally once I'm just in autopilot and moving. So I literally stand up and look at the clouds moving across the sky. I literally stand up and look at the way that the tree is moving in the wind. I literally look at the different colors of the leaves. I look at the different hues in the sky. And while I'm doing that, for that 3 minutes, I'm just breathing in and out. And you are looking at me like, what? But because of
it's about being
the
mindful.
job,
It
is about being mindful. It's about just being in the moment, allowing yourself to take a break.
So I'm looking at you because I recently started doing that and I didn't realize what I was doing.
Good for you.
So, and then I started doing it to fall asleep. There's an app. I don't know how people survive without iPhone technology.
Agreed.
I don't know. And there goes Glennie rolling her eyes. But maybe there's the app for the Android, but there's this app called Breed.
Yes.
And I use Breed to fall. That thing is amazing.
It is. It is.
Like, that thing is amazing. I started doing a little bit more research and looking for books that spoke about just breathing and the power of it and to calm you down. And I actually think those, when you talk about conflict resolution in school, I would want to see more of those actual practical things happen. Like what you're saying there, before, for me now, if I am ever dealing with any conflict resolution, that's something I'm going to do. You take 3 minutes and you're going to focus on the clouds. If they look like sheep, rabbit, wolf, whatever, you're going to be able to tell me something. I want to make sure you focus. Because we have to pull ourselves away from situations. And a lot of the times, we just want to go head on into things. And that's not the best approach. If I'm being honest, and I'm not the Dr. Olufemike Banks definition. I'm just absorbing everything that she said over the last couple episodes and kind of like trying to bring it back. And how do we get people to hear a bit more of what you're saying here? Are you planning on writing any books, doing any videos, anything like that? Because truth be told,
we are working. We have actually put quite a bit of work into some materials that will be released within the next few months.
And
so
I
we
did
had a
not know that.
collaboration. Look at you.
I just
Power
drop
thinker.
things. Of course. That's
We had we were able to collaborate with PAHO
okay.
to create some mental health awareness materials. So there will be videos, there will be flyers, and we're gonna be releasing them over time within the next few months. So.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
So what I would want our radio stations to come on board with, I would like for you to do like maybe 4 or 5. 'Cause this is from the app Breed, but we ain't gonna bother with the app Breed just now because we have the resource and the talent here. So if you can get like some 3-minute like little clips, and then we can play them on the radio, and people can just stop whatever they're doing through the day.
A moment of mindfulness.
A moment of mindfulness. Look at the Brandon. Go on with your bad self. A moment
I like
of
that.
mindfulness. I like that.
I really like that.
Because truth be told, the radio's a trigger. You guys don't want to touch it, but the radio is a trigger.
It is.
TV is a trigger.
It is.
It is.
YouTube is a trigger. Social media
Yes.
is a trigger.
And if you notice, I don't know if you noticed, during the height of the pandemic, we did release some pictorial thingies on social media.
Images.
Images, that's it. Well,
So
I said pictorial.
She
So
had
it's the images.
hippie, wonky thingies.
Right.
Right. We going good?
And it was
Let's don't
about
zip zap out of here.
it was about coping with mental health difficulties during the pandemic, and one of the things that we encouraged was to notice and limit your exposure to worry triggers.
Oh my God.
So social media, the news.
The news. It's not news anymore.
The news, sometimes the news is great because we need to know what's going
Going
on,
on.
but sometimes the news can be a big trigger because
That's
of
why I
all
don't
the
watch Fox.
negativity.
We're not going there. We're not going there because that is a trigger.
Yeah.
And you know, the news was. Growing up, it was.
A lot
I was
more than that.
I was taught every morning you get up, you turn on the news. It wasn't turn on cartoons. It was turn on the news because you need to know what's happening in the world. But then it felt too heavy.
Yes.
Everything in the world felt and still feels so heavy, and it's this constant barrage of negative news. It's never anything positive and
Because it
uplifting because
sells.
it and that is a different topic for a different day.
No, let's stick
But-
to it. Let's stick
no,
to it.
because we
So
do-
I
we-
want to see.
No, we're gonna pivot a little bit
Uh-huh.
because we do have some other areas that we need to address. You know, we spent a lot of time speaking about psychology, clinical psychology. We spent some time speaking about the psychosocial aspect. And I know that you are not a psychiatrist, but a lot of people don't know the difference between a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, and a psychiatrist. And I'd like for us to spend just a little bit of time, Ivan. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you know you're gonna educate me now. I'm
Yeah,
listening. I'm all ears.
I want us to spend a little bit of time going into what is the difference and what can persons expect and expect from you, expect from, a psychiatrist.
Yes. So the main difference is that I do not prescribe medication. I deal with the counseling aspect on an individual, familial, relationship, group kind of level. And if someone were to be experiencing a difficulty where they require medication, that's where psychiatry will come in. Unfortunately, Denise was adjusting in her seat. We do not have a resident psychiatrist at the moment. We've had a visiting psychiatrist for quite some time under Health Authority, and we have one that works remotely now as well. That person only sees Health Authority clients at the moment. However, for Ivan, it's in the budget for now
And I know
for Health
that.
Authority to have a psychiatrist, and they're actively searching for one, which I think is very much needed. I think there's also a huge amount of taboo about medication. And
It's not that it's taboo, they just prefer weed. No, we're gonna get real.
I don't think so. I think that people think if you take a tablet, it means you're crazy. Whereas sometimes mental health difficulties do alter the chemistry of your body,
Of course.
alter the chemistry of your brain, and sometimes medication is helpful. A lot of the time, depending on the severity, medication is helpful in collaboration with therapy as well. To get that person back to where they need to be. And I like to compare it to blood pressure, high blood pressure. If I go to the doctor and I notice that my blood pressure is rising, the first thing they're going to tell me to do is what? Change your diet, exercise.
Right.
If it gets to the point where
It needs to be.
it's too high and diet and exercise can't fix it, what are they going to tell me? I'm putting you on these tablets. It's the same thing with mental health difficulties. If you notice it when it's just beginning, the first thing you can try is to alter your lifestyle.
Right.
You can try the
Change, yeah.
counseling. You can try those coping strategies that, can evoke that kind of change. But if it gets to the point where it's very severe, medication is often necessary, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, just as it
Absolutely
isn't if you have high blood pressure. It's something that you need to make yourself feel better, to make yourself function better.
Right.
And it shows your commitment to being better.
Yes.
Okay, let's go somewhere.
We're going.
And I gotta tell Gleneva where we're going, but we're going
fine.
there. Truth be told, a lot of persons in our community. Now I have a particular stance on marijuana. My stance is, and I'll be open with it, it doesn't bother me. I think it has its place. When I can see the benefits of drinking the tea and health standpoint, multiple layers of benefits, I can see that. But a lot of people get into the use because of the relief that it provides, outside of the counseling, outside of any other medication. And that's where I was going when I said they use it. I'm not calling anybody down who's doing it. But where do we go as a society to ensure that we stop self-prescribing and this type of thing?
You see, the difficulty is, just like alcohol, marijuana, as you say, it has its place when used in moderation, when not affecting anything else, but they're also often comorbid with psychiatric difficulties. And because they're also brain altering situations, they can intensify a psychiatric difficulty as well. We self-medicate in the Caribbean a lot with marijuana and alcohol.
Oh yeah, that's
And
on the rise.
Anguilla, we have a culture of alcoholism.
Be careful what you say because people are offended by the truth.
In Anguilla, we
Say it
have a
again.
culture of alcoholism.
But did you just really say that?
I repeated
Twice.
it twice.
No, I didn't hear
And
that.
I'll say it a third time. In Anguilla, we have a culture of alcoholism, and we don't identify it as such.
I,
And alcoholism, Ivan, I am sorry. is the abuse of alcohol. It is not simply just, I can take a drink and walk away and be a somewhat social drinker. I am not dependent, and the doctor will tell me if I am heading down the wrong path. I am not codependent on alcohol to survive. I am not using alcohol to self-medicate or self-soothe. And I promise this is leading into a question. What outlet exists for persons who are alcoholics?
In order for there to be an outlet, we have to be ready to fully accept that it is a big issue.
So
I think the professionals understand and recognize that it's an issue, but it's a huge culture shift to say that we would bring a rehab center here.
They need it. You want to know why they need it? Because why we need it? Us, they, we, them, every pronoun possible. Anguilla need this. You want to know why? The big cry during COVID, one of the big cries, I got the calls, I saw it for myself. Government shut down certain areas. And you know what they were doing first thing? Going out to buy alcohol. They were at the Chinese stores, at the supermarkets, at everywhere else that they could find some alcohol.
We have to recognize, though, that is their coping mechanism. It's what they've chosen or what they've gotten used to as coping. So people with alcohol dependency issues, it's not because they decide or they wake up one day and decide, I want to be an alcoholic. It's because this is something that I've discovered that makes me feel better or makes me not feel. And that's what I want.
Ooh, you can't do that. Well, I can't say you can't. You shouldn't do that. You can't give me these like really, really nice nuggets and then just... Say that one more time. You don't remember what you said. You said it because it makes me feel better or make me not feel.
And that's what a lot of people are looking for. Because life is hard, and without the outlet for speaking or without feeling like we have the permission to speak, we find something else to do.
How do we get away from here?
Awareness, initiatives, and just that in particular requires a big culture shift.
Wow. That's a lot to unpack.
Yep, it is.
And we haven't even really scratched the surface of where we need to go. But I would beckon to leave us on this note unless you have something else, because
I think we've gotten at the point where it is heavy.
Yeah, and I think I need to stop, me personally, because you've said some things there and I can see the alignment now for where things are going. A lot of the things that we're doing out there, there's a big drug abuse problem in the schools that we don't want to address. We're told that the children are coming to school with alcohol on their breath. And you said it in full context just now, and so eloquent, if I might use that word, just because I want to use a big word at this point. Because if I really said what I wanted to say about it, I might be reprimanded. But it's the blatant truth. They're doing it because it makes them either feel better or it makes them don't feel. And running away from your problems never solves them. So we're at a point in our society where we have our kids abusing drugs and alcohol, or adults abusing drugs and alcohol. When are we gonna wake up? When are we gonna wake up? We have a number of initiatives that you're putting out there. A number of things that I'm happy to hear about, the National Parenting Plan, the work that you're doing through your office, but it just doesn't take you. And the 15 people that I'm going to plug again for you to get. Is 15 an okay number for you?
That's
a start.
That sounds okay.
Okay, we're gonna start with 15. Competent, trained ready to walk in? What you need in your office space? I'm being serious.
My office space is quite comfortable.
So you don't need individual constant rooms with beds and stuff. Tell me on progress report, what do you need?
Dr. Banks's office space is quite
nice, isn't it?
it is quite
I
comfortable.
haven't been there. No, you're going to go there tomorrow.
However, I'm going to make the plug for you. The outside and the exterior of the office space, Ivan, since you are so good at that, it can take some.
So where is this space?
It's Unit 20 in the commercial complex.
Okay, so we need to move you from there. Here's why we need to move you from there. No, so here's why we need. No, you gotta understand. I think big. You just told me moments ago about going outside and absorbing the clouds and you can't do that in a commercial complex.
I can't. However, depending on the situation, sometimes we make use of the beauty of Anguilla and we move out of the office.
So this is what I want. And I think, all these social projects that come in here now because the government have these things attached to MOUs, I am putting a plug, I am plugging in the plug that you're going to need a space someplace out on Crocus Hill, because our sandy ground that looks over the ocean, nice green lawn. You're going to have, let's manifest this. You're going to have ample parking. You're going to have not just
your whole 15 staff.
Yeah, your whole 15 staff, but the patients that they're going to see as well. You're going to have those little gym type things outside for the kids, the children, because they're to function and to come out. You're going to have outdoor seating area. You're going to have a fire pit. You're going to have a facility.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can see where Ivan is going with this.
Health facility.
A mental wellness facility.
That's exactly what we need.
So that is what we are aiming towards. We want a mental wellness.
Premier, we want a mental wellness facility. We need a mental wellness facility. Where you want it? Because I said Crocus Bay, but you might not like Crocus.
We're going to discuss.
No, we got to put it on the record.
Wrong show.
But wrong tag. But where do you want it? This is how things manifest. This is how this is something I practice all the time. The Bible tells you life and death is in the power of your tongue. The Scientologists tell you manifest what you speak is the same thing. So where do you want this facility? No pressure. Pick 2 places.
2 places.
Yes.
I like Crocus Hill. I like Meads Bay as well because the sunset is beautiful.
Tell me about it. Okay, so we want 2 facilities, Premier. We want one in Crocus Hill and we want one in Meads Bay. No, you gotta listen. It gotta be the right time for the right things to happen. The conversation is now. I feel, when this is just something I live by. That's how things manifest. We don't know how far this show is going to reach. We have all sort of people who are philanthropists and all sort of things that come and visit this island. I think this is a worthwhile and noteworthy project. I think government doesn't have the funding to get the staff now, but it's going to come. And when I say now, I mean right now while we're filming this show. I'm believing and I'm hoping and putting a plug that we're going to make some things manifest, and we need a facility as well. We need those places that we can pull away from. So we're gonna have this facility in short order. I'm not backing down from that. You got my support. Even if I gotta pull a line, I ain't laying the blocks, I ain't learned that yet, but I will pull a line and I will come and cut the grass if it needs be when it's built. Anything else you want in this facility? Because I'm not joking about it.
See, what we're
want a pool too?
What we're gonna do is we're gonna have Dr. Banks back at some point,
and
Banks Devonish back at some point with full plans. About once we are moving forward on this facility.
Put it down on paper what you want. Let's build this.
Manifest it.
So we need it.
We do.
We are here. We are manifesting. We are ending.
We are ending.
It has been again a conversation worth having. It's a conversation I am thankful we had the opportunity to have.
Yes.
I think it would be remiss of us. We started it with the number for safe.
Yes.
We're going to end it with the number for safe.
Definitely.
I think we can work on getting this number up, and when we post this video on YouTube, we can have that number running across, almost like a banner. I leave that to the technical guys, so that persons are aware.
Definitely.
That they can call safe 7233.
That's it.
That is it. Psychosocial. thank you. This has been another great episode. It's our first 2-part episode of Progress Report.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Banks
And we
Devenish.
Been my
actually had an
pleasure.
exclusive.
Yes.
Several.
Several.
I have to go back again that we're about to get our mental wellness facility. I'm happy to
Looking
get it.
forward to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna mention
Oh,
this.
I
over and
believe
over.
you.
You trust me. I will.
Appreciate it though, because it's really needed.
It is. And I'm not gonna even say but I'm just gonna say mental wellness facility.
Yes. Mental wellness
Mental
facility.
wellness facility.
And remember to have your moment of mindfulness.
Your moment of mindfulness. And you can have several moments of mindfulness at the mental wellness facility.
Like that. Thank you, everyone.